mic going to my ear, then I block that. Put me on stage, I'ma rock that. Saying you the best, stop that. Phony, I am not that. Yeah. What are y'all doing out here? What are y'all doing out here? Maybe you should spend a little less time with the women on your arms and a little bit more with your career. I ain't saying I'm the best, but I should be in the top 10. Give me a list of names, I'ma top them. I'm just playing with you, I don't care what the top is. Leave me at the bottom, let me work for it. You ain't never gonna find another rapper in the game and tell me.
Welcome in, Afternoon Sports Drive, Triple Play Sports Radio Network. I'm Patrick Wheeler, and that's Zach Lancaster.
What up?
We're rocking and rolling on this Monday. It's a big show. We got a big-time show coming up.
Yeah, we got Tom Dorado.
Yeah, that's exactly why. It's the only reason.
We do have a really good show. I'm really excited about it. It's going to be a huge show.
Yeah, it is. We're kicking off the week right here on the Afternoon Sports Drive. Show today brought to you by Stillwater Milling in Perry. You can check them out, 205 Gene Taylor in Perry. And then, of course, you can call them at 580-336-2168. They got a bunch of sales going on right now. A lot of stuff I'm seeing, too. For all you pet lovers out there, you got the doggos at home. It's your best prices on all the dog food you want. Go check them out. Stillwater Milling in Perry. And they will have everything you need right now. Also, Ranchers, Northern Oklahoma. You can get to the Agri Center in East and Stillwater and in downtown Perry and get some great deals. 10% savings on automatic livestock waterers, lawn and pasture sprayers, everything you need. Make sure you go get it done. Makes perfect Christmas gifts as well.
What sounds better than an automatic waterer?
Nothing.
Who wants
literally
to look at yesterday and then look at tomorrow? Who wants to get out there and water? Not me.
Not me, because when it's snowing and it's 22 degrees, yeah, no thank you.
Or waking up early this morning when it's like 12.
Ugh. Yeah.
Ugh.
Well, wait, 12 o'clock or 12 degrees?
12 degrees.
Oh, okay.
I got lucky, though, because I've been watching the weather, but I guess I haven't been paying attention. And I was listening to Triple Play Sports last night and heard a weather update, and they were like, it's going to be 12 degrees. I was like, oh, God, I better drip some water.
That's right.
Because I was, like, in bed. Like, just, I had the app on, and I was just like, oh, well, I should probably get up and go to the front bedroom, the front bathroom, and drip some water.
See, I woke up Sunday morning, and I was like, what in the world? I checked my Snapchat, and that's all I needed.
Yeah.
Everybody's story is, first snow of the year. And I go outside, it's snowing. I'm like, well, I'm not going to be that guy that also adds it to my Snapchat, but I am going to.
It was nice. Yeah, you don't need to watch the weather. All you have to do is just get on Snapchat or Facebook.
Pretty much. Yeah, that's your weather.
Is it raining? Was that an earthquake? Better check Facebook.
Check Facebook. Oh, there we go. Good. Yeah, I know. Sorry, meteorologists out there.
We don't need David Payne. No. We don't need Travis Meyer. We need old people on Facebook.
Old people, too. That's the best one, yeah. We got a lot of good stuff to get to today. That's a perfect way to kick off the show.
No offense.
Perfect way to kick off the show.
No offense.
Oklahoma State football got back to their winning ways. Oklahoma State basketball is undefeated in a crazy way. We're going to get to that in 15 minutes.
Yeah.
We've got the big man himself. ESPN bracketologist Joe Lunardi is going to join the Afternoon Sports Drive. Of course, he was the one that kind of, I guess, broke and put the news out a little bit more about the stay being put on Oklahoma State and their postseason ban.
You know how much crap I got for putting that in an article?
Oh, I know how much, actually. I mean, I've seen some of it.
It just drives me crazy.
Yeah.
Like, I thought this was news. And I'm like, well, okay, yes, Oklahoma State has been saying that they're going to be eligible and they're going to play. But that was the NCAA saying that Oklahoma State is eligible until the appeals process comes to an end.
Yes.
Get off my back, folks.
That's exactly right.
Get off my back.
Yeah, and you know who's going to be off your back? Joe. He'll make sure to set the record straight.
You, Joe.
Yeah, we're going to talk to him about that. Oklahoma State basketball, see his thoughts on what's going on with the team right now, because that was a big win over Wichita State. You know, it was a close victory. Kate Cunningham was Kate Cunningham. Of course, we'll get more into that here in just a little bit.
I had one of my buy or sells today ruined.
I know you did.
About 30 minutes before the show started.
Yes, I was going to tell you that. I was like, I know he knows, but yeah, I saw that.
I still have one more. I got one more holdout.
You always have to have a backup just in case.
Well, no, I still have Tylen.
Oh, that's true.
So technically half of my buy or sell can still be used.
I guess you're good.
Technicalities,
We'll kind of look at that and break the ice on it a little bit, because Chuba opted out. We knew that already this weekend. Yeah. Then Rodarius officially opting out. 30 minutes ago.
Yeah, 220.
Yeah, so it's not surprising. I mean, we knew this was coming.
For me, what's surprising is that it's coming today.
Okay. Yeah.
I expected it, and I appreciate it coming today. I will say that. I appreciate the fact that Rodarius announced, and technically Chuba as well. I'm glad that they announced it today. They waited until after the Baylor game. They waited technically until the season was over, the regular season, to say and you can tell that, like, it's almost kind of like Gundy's fed up with it because he's always hated it. Gundy doesn't like transfers, transfers out of his program. He loves transfers in. He doesn't like transfers out. He doesn't like players opting out. You can tell that every time he talks about it. Like, he announced that Tevin, he was like, well, I'll let him do it. I don't want to.
Yeah.
But Tevin's out, and then he says in the pregame show, Chuba's out. Tevin was in Waco. Tevin was in the stadium.
That's what I heard.
He was in the stands.
Mm-hmm.
And Chuba's been there on the sidelines with his jersey on, and and I got to give Chuba a lot of credit because we saw tweets from Colby Harvell-Peel. We saw tweets from Amen. He's been there. He's been dealing with more injury than we thought. They were like he could barely walk during the regular week. He's not practicing. He could barely walk, and then he's suited up on game days with injections and so many painkillers just to be able to move. And Hutton said that as well. Hutton was like he was in a moon boot all week long, and then he's on the sidelines wearing a jersey. So a lot of respect to Chuba, and we'll get into Chuba. I know we've got talking points on Chuba, but I'm all for it. I wish those guys, and they ended up not playing. Very, very smart. I'm glad I'm wrong on that. But I'm all for.
Gonna give me my props or what?
Nope.
Okay, that's fine.
I'm all for those guys setting out, and I wish they would have announced it sooner.
Yeah.
I wish they hadn't played against TCU. So.
No,
that's me. That's personal. That's not a fan. That's looking at it from these guys are going to change their families for generations with money. Rodarius has made himself a very, very rich man this year.
Absolutely.
And kudos to them.
So the phone line caller, you're on the afternoon sports drive with Patrick and Zach.
Just don't disagree with us. We're not in the mood.
I'll say this. I do disagree to some degree.
Okay.
And it's this. Now, Chuba, for one thing, he can look out there and go, you know what? They've got a lot of other talented guys that do what I do. I'm not leaving them, without someone, or at least even a couple of guys, and now it's turned out to be 3 guys and maybe even 4 that can go in and fill in for me.
Absolutely.
I'm not leaving them in a bad situation. Tevin Jenkins was his body was just abused. So I get that. But with Rodarius Williams, he's been able to stay really healthy through his career. I mean, I know he's had a couple of minor issues, but as healthy as he's been, and when I look at him compared to what's the rookie at Tampa Bay, the defensive back whose dad played in the league forever, but anyway, the guy's just an absolute stud. And when I look at his tape at Minnesota last year,
Antoine Winfield.
Yeah. Antoine Winfield compared to Rodarius Williams, just not close, guys. He's not even in the same category. And I get you're right. He's good. He's shown that he's been so consistent. But unless you jump off the page, go get another football game under your belt if you can. And I don't think he should leave, and I don't think anybody else should leave if they physically are not just like Tevin Jenkins. And
I think that's why. We saw Rodarius go down against TCU, and he's been healthy all year. Tylen's been healthy all year. And then, Tylen tweaks the same knee that he tore his ACL in last year. He tweaked it against TCU in a game that they had no business losing. Rodarius goes down with an injury. Trey Sterling goes down with an injury, and we heard that Trey was suited up. Same with LD. They were both suited up. They just didn't go on Saturday. But I think if Rodarius doesn't get injured against TCU, and that's why he didn't play against Baylor, I think that if him and Tylen both don't get injured against TCU, then I think they play against Baylor. I still think because this year the bowl games really don't matter this year, especially for Oklahoma State. I mean, the reports now is the Houston is Houston and then Texas Bowl against a 3-7 Arkansas team. There's no reason for Tylen to be out there against a 3-7 Arkansas team in the Texas Bowl. Same with Rodarius, same with Chuba. And Chuba's been banged up all year. Tylen tweaks his knee, Rodarius gets injured, and that's the only reason I'm okay with it, is because they, if Tylen, if he goes out there against Baylor, and he's 85% and Tylen re-injures that knee, that's it. He's not going to the NFL, and if he does, he's a an undrafted rookie free agent that goes to the Jets or San Francisco, and he may or may not make a practice squad if he re-injures that knee. Same with Rodarius. This was a blowout year for Rodarius because he's shown glimpses. He's shown a flash here or there throughout his career, but there were a lot of people like, why, go back to last January, why are you announcing that you're coming back? Everyone expects you to come back because you're not ready for the NFL. And it made sense for him to come back, and he earned himself a ton of money. Now he's not the best corner in the country. He's not going to be one of the best rookie corners in the NFL, but he earned himself a ton of money, and with the injuries, it makes sense for them not to come back, because if they get injured, that's it.
Yeah, and that's the one thing that I've thought this entire season, and when I've heard you guys talk about it, you do have to, at least this season, I understand, because I just hate guys, opting out. Mm-hmm. But you factor in COVID on top of that, because they missed a couple of games, the early season games, they didn't get to play. So, they're looking at an OSU team that right now would probably be going for double-digit wins again.
Absolutely.
And I understand everybody saying, look, all hands on deck, because we have a chance to do something big again. That kind of got taken away from you. So since that got taken away from you, I do see you guys' point a little bit better because of that, because it is not a normal year.
No, it's not.
And that's my only reason. That's the only reason I think both of us are okay with it. Yeah. Is there was zero chance 2 or 3 weeks ago of a Big 12 title. There was, as soon as you lost to Texas, there was really no shot at a national title because the confidence level going into Bedlam was basically none. So if there's no pandemic, it's a normal year, and the offense performs at a high level, then yeah, you probably don't need to opt out because you're playing for championship. Well, but that wasn't the case.
No, and I've never personally had an issue with guys opting out, especially when there is no chance of a championship, because if you look at what these guys are thinking for themselves, mm-hmm. they are their own business, okay, and they got to carry themselves accordingly. So while some people might see it as they're quitting on the team. Look how much they've done for the team. The team gets it, man.
Well, that's the fan standpoint.
And
I'm not saying anything bad.
No, and I think by now, it's become and it will continue to be, a trend that we see, and we've seen it happen in bowl games and things like that as well. But what COVID has done in terms of allowing, more reason for an opt out, some people are starting to come around and be like, hey, you know what? That does make sense, actually. Yeah. That does make sense for that guy. Because what was he going to gain by playing one more game or playing a bowl game that doesn't matter? So these guys are carrying themselves as businesses. The NFL, it's like you see in the statements from everybody. It's my dream, right? It's where I wanted to be since a kid. Got to take it while I have a chance, man, because as you know, what's the NFL stand for? Not for long. Yeah. You got to get it while you can.
Well, and you look at college football. What is the percentage of on Oklahoma State? Now, Alabama and LSU, those are different animals. But you look at Oklahoma State year in and year out, what's the percentage of players that make the NFL? Right now, we look at Chuba, we look at Tylen, we look at Rodarius, and there's and then Tevin. I forget about Tevin. There's 4. And you're looking at maybe 2 or 3 guys on the defensive side. Like I think Amon's going to be an NFL guy, and then there's a couple of underclassmen that have a shot. So you're maybe looking at 7 or 8 guys. I think Dylan's a fringe guy. I think Malcolm's a fringe guy, and that's really it. You're looking at 7, 8, maybe 9 guys, and half of those are fringe. Yeah. Half of those are practice squad guys on a roster of 125. So if it's playing a bowl game that you played in last year that there will be no fans, you're playing against a potential 3-7 Arkansas team, Why?
Yeah.
Why do you need to be out there risking injury?
Caller, thanks for the call. We got to give it off.
No
and get
offense,
Joe on.
but we have a more important phone call.
I
coming.
appreciate it, though. Thank you. All right.
Bye-bye.
That's, no. So, and look, I get it.
Yeah.
There's plenty of people that are, hey, you know what? They're quitting on the team. How can they do that? That's
and
not
they're
the case,
and they're fans.
man.
I get it.
Yeah.
From a fan standpoint, I understand.
Fans have to understand.
Yeah, they're not quitting.
That they are moving on.
Just
man.
listen to what their teammates have to say.
Yeah, exactly.
They're not saying, "Oh, that SOB's
It'd be
quitting
one
on
thing
me."
if how could you
go get that money?
Exactly, they get it. Everybody gets it. Except some fans, that's for sure. We come back from the afternoon sports drive. Don't miss because Joe Lunardi, bracketologist from ESPN, is going to join us, talk Oklahoma State basketball and more. It's up next.
Yeah, run it back, tell them what I'm coming at. I was on that there, now I'm done with that. Scared of what I didn't want, scared of what I wanted and thought that I was finished, but I hardly had begun. In fact, I'm a beast, I'm a monster, a savage, and any other metaphor the culture can imagine. And I got a caption for
Welcome back in Afternoon Sports Drive, Triple Play Sports Radio Network. Patrick Wheeler and Zach Lancaster hanging out on this Monday. We're kicking off the show for the week. And
it's a great start to a week.
It's a great start, it is. And joining us now is ESPN bracketologist Joe Lunardi. Joe, thanks for taking some time out of your day, man. How's it going?
I'm all good. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, we appreciate the time. And, it was funny because, of course, we cover Oklahoma State here on the station and during the off season, we're talking about stuff going on with the football team, and then all of a sudden the basketball news comes on, and it's like this team really might not be able to play in the postseason, and everyone's heads were just kind of spinning off.
Well, and you hear that when it first came out, I think the major fear obviously was, we may not get a chance to play in the postseason or the Big 12 tournament, but the major fear was how many of these guys are even going to stay.
And that was obviously including Cade, yes, for sure. So, with that being said, we'll get to that in just a second. I wanted to ask you though first, Joe, how great is it just to see college basketball back and continuing it on? Because, I know there's been plenty of interruptions, but it has to be good to see live college basketball again.
Oh, for sure. And I think the quality of play has been generally greater than anyone has a reasonable right to expect. I mean, we didn't have a normal offseason. We obviously didn't have a normal preseason. Got some teams going to games after being on quarantine, maybe practicing once or twice. And yet we've had some terrific competition. And, look, for the most part, the players want to play, right?
Sure.
Now, I'm not smart enough to know how safe it is and what the long-term impacts are and whether or not this is even a good idea. Fundamentally, we're all just fans. And, given the choice between having something we like and not having something we like, we're going to choose to have it. And I'm glad that we have it. But I'm concerned every day. And I don't think that enough is being made of the collapse of the Florida player over the weekend. If certainly everyone wishes him well. Mm-hmm. If it turns out to have been, COVID related in some manner, I think we could be talking a Rudy Gobert kind of thing back when the NBA came to a screeching halt.
Does the idea, I should say, of a single location for the tournament, like it's been thrown around, maybe Indianapolis or wherever it's going to be, does that make sense to you?
Oh, absolutely. The more closed of an environment it is, I mean, think about it. On Selection Sunday night, if you throw in the women's tournament and the men's tournament, 136 Division I teams are trying to figure out how to get to 32 different sites in about 48 hours. And that's a lot of, travel and interstate travel and logistical complications and protocols that really just are not possible right now. This is not like, Major League Baseball sending two teams to Texas and keeping them there for 2 best-of-7 series that last a week each.
Mm-hmm.
This is, getting 68 teams there to maybe play for 2 hours, half of them which are going to be done. So, the simpler it can be, and again, it wouldn't surprise me if we end up with a condensed field when all is said and done. But the plan today is to play a full bracket at one site. I think the schedule will be markedly different. Like, you're not going to go for the first weekend, right? If you're fortunate enough to win 2 games, then, go home for a few days and go back for the second weekend, as is the case in a normal tournament situation. I think we all have to be prepared for something that's very different.
Well, would it make sense? You bring that part up, and that's been one of the things we've all looked at with teams being able to go home and then come back. So does that part right there, like, would it make logistical sense to be able to keep those teams around for all that time, or to you is it like, no, it's okay, let them go home and just hope for the best?
They're definitely going to keep them there. I can't imagine that you would send them out of whatever kind of quarantine bubble situation is put in place and have them leave and go back to, all different places across the country and then say, all right, let's give the Sweet 16 a week off and have them come back.
Mm-hmm.
Like, that makes no sense to me. It's going to be hard enough to get them all there, get them all tested, get them all playing. Like, maybe the example at Mohegan Sun, where they had 20-some teams come in and play multiple games. I have to think that people were taking notes, and that we're going to see something like that.
ESPN Bracketologist Joe Lunardi joining us here on the Afternoon Sports Drive, Triple Play Sports Radio. Okay, so let's look at Oklahoma State here a little bit, because I remember when you tweeted about it the other day, people were like, wait, what does this mean? So can you explain a little bit more to the listeners what the stay means on Oklahoma State's postseason ban while their appeal is pending? Yeah,
I think there was a lot of confusion here, and I may have indirectly caused some of it. Because at least in my history of dealing with the NCAA and sanctions and the Committee on Infraction, even if an appeal was taking place, it's not innocent until proven guilty. It's guilty until proven innocent, at least with regard to individual student-athlete eligibility. And the NCAA actually keeps an official list of eligible teams for its championships at all levels. Like, there's a Division II women's soccer eligibility list, right? And just as obviously pertinent to this conversation, a Division I men's basketball list. And I can tell you that in what I do, we work from that list as a pretty strict measure. And when the season started, Oklahoma State was not on the eligible list. Now, as it turns out, that seems to be maybe more of a clerical error, if you will, because they had filed an appeal which generates what's called an automatic stay. It kind of postpones the sanction until the appeal is heard. But the left hand and the right hand somewhere weren't necessarily communicating, because the filing of that appeal did not result in a change to the team eligibility list. So in doing some digging last week, it turns out that this automatic stay is, in fact, in place. The eligibility list will have to be updated. And until the appeal is heard, and if it were to go against the institution, then their eligibility remains in place for the Big 12 tournament and the NCAA tournament. So the $1 million question is, when will the appeal be heard? And, does Oklahoma State benefit maybe from the the pandemic and the conditions and the inability to maybe have the appeal and the hearing or whatever's going to take place.
Yeah, sure.
And, you know, does the can get kicked down the road here?
Mm-hmm.
I don't know the answer to that. And I don't think the institution knows the answer to that. We know that in the case of Georgia Tech a year ago, they had a similar postseason ban, not for the same reason, but that they had a one-year postseason ban, and they filed an appeal, and they also had a stay. But when it was clear that they weren't, you know, going to be above 500 and really threaten in the postseason, they withdrew the appeal and served the penalty, which seems to me to be a little bit capricious, but, you know, that's what the rules allow, and why not take advantage of it? It'll be interesting to see here. Again, this is all going to be about timing, and I just hope for the Cowboys' sake that they don't, you know, decide to hear the appeal on, I don't know, March 4th and render a decision on March 11th, you know, during the quarterfinals of the Big 12 tournament. But, I mean, we've all seen kind of knuckleheaded things like that happen in college sports.
Yeah, we certainly have. That's absolutely true. With Oklahoma State starting 6-0, what do you think about the team so far? And additionally, you know, Cade Cunningham, obviously, you know, he put it away against Wichita State in the last game. But what do you think about the team so far?
Yeah, I think anytime you can win on the road, and I don't care whether there's fans or not, it's still harder than winning at home. We are talking, you know, kind of young kids here in foreign environments to be able to go on the road at a Marquette, you know, a borderline tournament team, you know, Wichita State in some turmoil, certainly, but still winning on the road is something. You know, a few minutes ago I was on radio in Arkansas talking about the Razorbacks, and they're also 6-0, and they haven't left their gym, they haven't left their state, and they haven't played anybody ranked inside like the top 150 in the country. Well, Oklahoma State has done much more than that, and I think for a young team with the uncertainty surrounding the program, that, you know, if anything, they've been a little extra aggressive in scheduling, and you know, they're probably as well prepared as they can be under the circumstances for league play, and you know, with a shorter non-conference season this year for pretty much everyone, league play is going to be what determines your eventual fate. And I think they start earlier than most. Don't they play a league game this week?
Yeah, they do. They start against TCU in a couple of days. Yeah,
and, you know, it's going to come down like it always or often does for you know, all except the very, very top teams in the major conferences. You know, can you stay above 500 in your league? Because generally speaking, history will tell you that if you're a winning team in the Big 12, you're going to see your name on Selection Sunday, and that's going to be the challenge for Oklahoma State.
For you, is Cade Cunningham going to be the first pick in the NBA draft next year?
Yeah, I'm not. That is not my ology, if you will. But he's got to be on the short list. Mm-hmm. And you know, this time next year, I don't think we're going to have to be worried about him, you know, missing any meals.
Yeah, no, I think that's a fair answer for sure. ESPN Bracketologist Joe Lunardi joined us here on the Afternoon Sports Drive. So, with Oklahoma State technically eligible right now, can you tell us where you would have Oklahoma State currently in the bracket?
Yeah, there's a new bracket coming out tomorrow. They weren't in any of the brackets up to this point for all the reasons that we explained. And yes, we will see Oklahoma State in the bracket tomorrow as a 10 seed, which is, you know, they've been floating in the 8, 9, 10 range. I've been keeping track of where they would fall, irrespective of the eligibility considerations. You know, they would be higher, but they do have kind of 3 cupcakes that weakens their record a little bit. But, again, if they can kind of tread water or a little better than that in the Big 12, they're only going to go up.
To you, do they crack the top 25 at some point this season?
I would say probably not, because I think, to do that, generally you move up in the polls by not having any losses. Like pollsters, it really doesn't have any connection to the selection and seeding process. And by that I mean, like we're going to see undefeated teams, in the top 10 and the top 15 that you're going to say, but I know they're not one of the top 10 teams. And that's just because the 0 in the loss column gets disproportionate impact in terms of poll voting. And by the same token, to move up when you're unranked requires, you could win 6 in a row, lose at Baylor, and drop. Right? That's not fair. That's just the way the system works. And I think because of that, and because it's going to be hard for anybody to have a sustained winning streak in this year's Big 12, it's going to be hard for Oak State to get that kind of electoral momentum going. But who knows, right? The Electoral College is meeting today. Maybe they're voting for Oklahoma State.
Very well could be. So where would you rank the Big 12 this year amongst the best conferences in college basketball as a whole?
I think the Big Ten is the best because it's the deepest, but I think the Big 12 is 1A because the top of the Big 12 is really good. I mean, Baylor's a potential Final Four team. I'm not going to rule out Kansas until proven otherwise. I think West Virginia is the potential Final Four team. I know Tech thinks it is. Maybe Texas as well, winning the non-Maui Classic. So those are 5 teams right off the top with second weekend and or Final Four potential. You're not going to find that pretty much anywhere else.
So I had to throw this question in here for you because I've always personally been a big North Carolina fan. So right now, what are your?
I'm sorry to hear that.
Yeah, thank you. It's been these last couple of years, it's been a struggle. So what are you thinking about the Tar Heels so far this season?
I think they're going to be Sweet 16 good. I don't think they're Final Four good. But certainly a healthy rebound and return to the NCAA tournament.
Okay. I think I can work with that. That was a little better than maybe I expected.
Well, that's very kind of you because, it's got to be hard to root for a team like Carolina, that in a bad year, only wins 22 games.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And speaking of that, in the ACC, what did you think of the timing of Duke canceling the rest of their non-conference schedule and then Coach K saying maybe everyone should rethink playing right now?
Well, it's very easy to be cynical, right?
Yes.
And it's very easy to, say, well, they just got their head handed to them again in a big game. Of course they don't want to play. But if you step back and you put a non-sports hat on, right? Of course he's right? Like in of all of the parts of our society, like if you can only call something essential or non-essential, clearly college sports are non-essential. That doesn't mean we don't want them as much. It just means that, like, nobody's going to die if we don't play. We're seeing a lot of cancellations.
Yeah.
And we're hoping to avoid a tragedy with the Florida player from this past weekend. So what bugged me a little bit about Coach K's comments weren't so much that it may have been coming off a couple of losses and that let the cynics come out. It's that this is the same guy who, like a month and a half ago, wanted all 357 teams to go play in the tournament.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
So, like, to me, that's a little bit of a contradiction.
Sure. Yeah, no, I thought that too. He was the front runner for that.
In addition to it being a colossally bad idea from a competition standpoint. If we knew everything we knew about the resurgence of the virus and the timing of possible vaccines, would we have started in November? I think not. But we didn't know, and we're making the best of it, and there's honor in that. But when you have number one and number two, Gonzaga and Baylor, scheduled to play a big time game, and an hour before the game it gets canceled.
Yeah.
That's just maybe tells you something.
A couple more things here real quick before we let you go. The first one, you kind of brought it up there with what Coach K and the ACC coaches were talking about. Let's get everybody in the tournament this year. When you did hear that initially, how much did you think, was the NCAA in your mind ever going to go with that, or was that ever a real possibility?
I don't believe it was ever a real possibility. And if it was anybody other than, the dominant figure in the sport making the suggestion, I think it would have been laughed off the sports page.
Mm-hmm.
Because, just because the number of non-competitive teams that there are, you want to expand it within reason, because we're not sure enough about the at-large field to include everybody who's good because of the mixed nature of the season. Totally get it. To have team number 347 playing team number 5, and to have them travel and have to go through all the protocols and precautions that are in place, just so we can check a box, that doesn't make any sense. Team number 357 this year is Mississippi Valley State, and they played Arkansas a couple of weeks ago, and they lost by 80. Not 8, not 18, not 38, 80.
Wow.
So I rest my case.
That's unbelievable. Okay, last thing. We were talking about Oklahoma State basketball, and while Cade Cunningham obviously stands out as the guy, the engine that keeps everything going, who else on that team stands out to you for the reason Oklahoma State is 6-0 and maybe their success coming up in the Big 12?
Well, I got to tell you, it's more the way than the who, because they just have a toughness and a defensive kind of mindset under Mike Boynton that I think is really admirable. The other freshman, and I want to get this right, am I saying it right, Moncrief?
Yeah, Matthew Alexander Moncrief, yep.
I mean, impressive to start, good shooting start. Rondell Walker, I think, is an interesting player. Mm-hmm. You have 3 freshmen like that throwing Cade Cunningham in there, and you figure to just keep getting better and better as the year goes along. So I certainly think they'll be in the tournament, and I just hope that for Cade Cunningham's sake, he's not like a Ben Simmons that never gets the chance.
Yep. Joe, appreciate your time. Thanks so much for hopping on with us and letting us know everything there with Oklahoma State. We appreciate it as always, man, and we'll make sure to tune in the Bracketology show and all that good stuff, and can't wait for March.
You got it. Thanks for having me.
All right, Joe Lunardi. You can follow him on Twitter at ESPN Lunardi, and don't forget to check out the Bracketology show on ESPN Plus. A lot of good stuff there from him, as expected.
I think for me, one of the best parts about the last bit of that interview was him bringing up MA and Rondell Walker.
Sure.
Because obviously you look at that team and it's the most obvious choice is Isaac Likely. Everyone knows about Isaac Likely, and Ice is very, very good. He's a player that can flip on a dime, and he's going to have 4 to 7 assists. He's going to have 4 to 9 rebounds. He's going to score anywhere between 7 and 14 points every single night. He's a solid player. He's a fringe NBA guy. But when you look at these first 6 games, 2 guys that really stick out, and one guy that was sort of expected in Moncrief, I don't think anybody outside of the program thought Rondell Walker was going to make as big of an impact as he has
Certainly.
in the first 6 games. I mean, he's just what freshman in the country plays both ends of the court and probably better on defense than on offense.
Yeah, and that's a big part of it right
It's
there.
less than 10.
Yeah.
And I'd be calling you'd be a liar if you said there was any more.
We're here on the Afternoon Sports Drive show, brought to you by Stillwater Milling Agri Center in Perry. Appreciate Joe Lunardi. That was awesome. I really that's like a bucket list thing right
Yeah,
there. Get to
no
talk
doubt.
to Joe Lunardi, right? He is the man when it comes to college basketball.
He knows his ology.
Yeah, that's what I should have asked him. Is like, how does one major in bracketology, sir?
Yeah.
How did that come about?
Can you imagine how fun?
What a job,
Right.
Yeah.
It's also like Tom would hate to be a bracketologist because it's all speculation.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously there's fact behind it, but you control basically. Obviously, he isn't going to set March Madness.
No.
But I think he has quite a bit of sway.
Oh, yeah.
And he just sits around and he looks at stats and he looks at facts and he's like, yeah, you're a 4.
What a job.
Yeah,
what
man,
a job.
I tell ya.
Fun time.
Yeah.
We're going to round out the first hour on the Afternoon Sports Drive after this.
Whoa. Staring as I go, I gave until my soul hurt, and never told them so. They're watching as I fall, somewhere down below. Maybe I'm just falling to get somewhere they won't. Get somewhere they won't.
Welcome back, Afternoon Sports Drive, Triple Play Sports Radio Network. Patrick Wheeler and Zach Lancaster. We're rounding out this first hour. What do we call it? A hit and get? Yeah, hit and get.
I love hit and gets.
It's always a good one. It's worth it when it's...
I'm sure Bill Coleman and the advertisers hate hit and gets.
Well,
but I love
they
it.
don't, because in these hit and gets, all we really have time for is to mention the advertisers.
Oh, that's true.
Yeah, so kind of spin it back on them in
That's
that way,
true.
you know? Bill, if you're listening, I promise I'm getting it done.
Bill only listens to our show.
Oh, well, makes sense.
Robert?
Show brought to you by Stillwater Milling Agri Center in downtown Perry. They're just south of the square, 205 Gene Taylor, and it's just in time for Christmas. All toys are discounted by 20%. So go in and check that out for the little ones. All the Christmas decor is now at 50% off as well. Any last-second Christmas decor you need, still got time. It's not Christmas yet. You can get that for 50% off. Both locations in Perry and in Stillwater have a bunch of items on sale for Rangers as well. So it's a lot of good stuff going on at Stillwater Milling. Appreciate them. How great was Joe Lunardi?
Oh, man.
Good stuff.
I don't want people to take this as I'm making fun of, but I love that like East Coast type of like phrasing, like and that kind of an accent, like call a tournament. Like,
Yeah, that was good.
Oh man,
Well,
it's classic.
And I was glad it worked out, because had it been to where Oklahoma State still wasn't eligible,
Yeah.
then you wouldn't get that question of, hey, can you tell me what seed they are?
Yeah, and that's something that you don't get from anyone else.
No.
Because there are people out there, just like when you search 2021 NFL mock draft, you're gonna get hundreds of hits, because anyone with a computer and anyone that watches football is like, I know where this guy's going. Well, how many picks are there in the NFL draft?
Yeah.
And how many college football players are going to try their hand to get into those 300 some odd spots?
Well, yeah. And
We're talking thousands.
sure. And for those that didn't, they're like, Joe Lunardi rings a bell.
right?
He's the guy that when you watch the selection show,
it's credibility.
And then Oklahoma State hopefully gets in the tournament. You're going to be seeing him talk.
And when you watch the Selection Sunday, if you watch it on ESPN or you watch it here, you watch it there, he's one of those NFL draft guys that they're like, hey, what do you think about this?
Exactly.
Pick? They're saying, all right, Joe, we've got the 8-9 matchup coming up. What do you think about these two teams? He's someone that can say, all right, well, I have X on this and I have X on that. And you're like, oh, well, that's spot on.
Yeah, and he gave us a little sneak peek there into the bracket that hasn't been released. It will be tomorrow, the latest one. Oklahoma State is sitting at a 10 seed, I like it. That's cool. That's cool.
Because it's certainly better than an 8-9
yeah,
virtually an elimination game.
Always weird stuff going on in those 8-9 matchups, that's for sure. So that was good stuff. Appreciate Joe. If you're just tuning in, you're like, wait, what? We'll have that interview up on YouTube very, very shortly, so don't worry about that. It'll also be put on Pokes Report, right, as well?
Yeah, so cool. I'm gonna have that up sometime tomorrow.
Okay.
You're looking at a 20-some-odd minute, nearly a 25-minute interview. Yep. Plenty of stuff. I'm gonna have some free stuff, and I'm gonna have some premium stuff up over the next 2 or 3 days on PokesReport.com.
There you go. Make sure you check that out, PokesReport.com. Show brought to you by Stillwater Milling Agri Center. Hour number 2 of the afternoon sports drive is right around the corner. We have OSU football, basketball to get into, another crazy weekend in the NFL. A good game coming up tonight as well. Buy or sell coming up. Tons of stuff coming up here in the afternoon sports drive on the Triple Play Sports Radio Network after this.
I don't know how we make it out when we make out on the low. Even if it rains, you'd rather make it snow. Both you and me know we gotta let it go. Laying on the ground, wonder why it's so cold. How we make it out when we make out on the low. Even if it rains, you'd rather make it snow. Both you and me know we gotta let it go. Laying on the ground, wonder why it's so cold. Why you so icy cold? My tears can't drip. Sitting awake alone, tattoo side.
It's hour number 2 of the afternoon sports drive, Triple Play Sports Radio Network. Patrick Wheeler, Zach Lancaster. Show brought to you by Stillwater Milling and Perry. And right now at the Perry location, you get 20% off Femco ATV, 12-volt and 3-point spreaders, $25 off Barnstormer and 24-inch black fans. A lot of good stuff and a lot of great deals. Finishing 2020 out the right way at Stillwater Milling in Perry, just south of the square, 205 Gene Taylor. So, a lot of stuff to get here in hour number 2. Oklahoma State football, it wasn't a game I was ever going to pick against them.
No.
But I didn't expect any type of blowout. Now,
well, we were all, you, me, and Levi, we were all within 8 points.
Yes, we had them. I know I didn't have them covering the spread. And I had the under.
And it was
as
only
well.
5.
Yeah, and I think I had them winning by 4, if I remember right. Like 31-27 was maybe my score or something like that.
I think I had 35-21 or something.
Yeah, so and the thing is, because I didn't expect Tylen to play at all, and he didn't. And so I thought, okay, that's probably going to, just from what I've seen this year, going to limit the offense. Now, did I expect Baylor to be like, hey, we don't have 47 people available on our team, and some of them are defensive backs? No. But when we're 2 plays in, and Dylan Stoner is ripping off a huge game, it was 75 yards?
75.
And scoring, I'm thinking to myself, all right, there's no way this is going to be a shootout.
No.
Because the OSU defense isn't going to allow Baylor to score all that much. They're already limited with the weapons they have on that side of the ball. And then next thing you know, it's Baylor looking like they'd never played football before. OSU offensively, now I always like to start with Spencer, okay? I thought that the touchdown throw was one of the best throws he's made all year.
I agree.
He's on the run. Dylan Stoner helped by extending the play and continuing a route that was already broken down. That's great. That's a big-time wide receiver play. That's smarts. That's IQ in football. So that was great. But the throw is on the run, somewhat across his body a little bit. He's using the sideline to kind of form another pocket real quick, which is important to do as well. A lot of the times we talk about the defense using the sideline as an extra defender. A quarterback can kind of makeshift the pocket with it too. We saw him do that. And so, people that will, critique everything he does, oh my gosh, Spencer was wide open, Tylen, Dylan was wide open, what are you talking about? Look at the mechanics on that throw. That was good. Minus the interceptions. And I'll even give him a little bit of a pass on the second interception.
Yeah, I agree.
Because that one was just a really good defensive play. The ball probably was underthrown, but still really good defensive play. First interception, not good. The safety is literally staring at you and watching everything you do, and you throw it right at him. So that was a bad pick. And at that time, I posted my favorite meme on Twitter, which is the Larry David meme where he's like doing the facial expressions. Well, and that's what I think when I watch Spencer Sanders play every single weekend is just over and over all the time.
Because he has these mistakes. Like, so we've talked about his athleticism and we've talked about his talent, and Spencer is really good. And he does things like the touchdown to Spencer, or the touchdown to Dylan, and then he had a second one, and he has these plays where you're like, wow, that was really, really good. And his mistakes are just so polar opposite. Like that the touchdown compared to the interception almost cancel each other out, because the interceptions, other than the second one, I'll give you that one. That first one just leaves you sitting there like, what in the hell just happened?
Yeah.
That's something that I would do.
Yeah. And at that time in the game, it's like, we're rolling, man.
Yeah.
Don't give him the ball back. Now, I think it's also important, because something I've harped on with Spencer is he doesn't go through his progressions, okay? Well, if you look at that first touchdown, I think it was a design screen.
Yeah.
And he looks at it, and immediately, I give him credit, he immediately noticed it wasn't there, so he hits out the other way and goes to his next option. He went through a progression, and it looked good, and it was finally, oh my gosh, he can do it. So it is there. The ability is there, and it was, again, another one of those games where I think this was his best game of the year, probably, overall, throwing the football. That can be argued, whatever. But overall, as far as mechanics and the way he moved the ball, it was really good to see. On top of everything else, he had a really clean pocket most of the game. That was a really good performance by that offensive line to give him all day to throw. The other thing is he and Dylan Stoner specifically, who we know had a monster day, Dominic Richardson had a monster day. Those guys, while they played the tails off and looked really great, they also took advantage of a non-existent Baylor defense, okay? And that's not to downgrade their performance, because that was an overall great performance, and I think Dylan Stoner showed us all again, which we should already know, that he is really good when given the opportunity. But man, when a defense poses no threat to you like that, you better exploit it, and that's exactly what they did. So I thought overall, Baylor came in and was completely overmatched from the first snap. I've watched a lot of Charlie Brewer before.
Yeah.
And that was the most lost I've ever seen him look. He didn't have a run game, and that doesn't help anything. He looked like he'd never played Division I football in his life.
Yeah, and I think something really important to note. So Baylor was without 47, but it was players, coaches, and staff.
Yeah.
If you look at the offensive side of the ball, Baylor was only missing 2 starters from the offense. So it's not like it's not like Oklahoma State held them to 3 points and they were without Charlie Brewer, 3 starting offensive linemen, a wide receiver, and their second string running back. They were without two starters. So that's something really important to note. And Dylan put up monster numbers. 247 yards and 3 touchdowns on 8 receptions.
Yeah, he was on pace for like 8 touchdowns and 1,000 yards in the first quarter.
Yeah, that's just insane. That's insane. Both career highs, and I've got it right here. Let me see. Dylan, it was the 3rd highest receiving yard performance in school history.
That's nuts, man.
Look at the receivers that Oklahoma State's had over the years.
Yeah.
Rashawn Woods, Des Bryant, Justin Blackmon, Tylan Wallace, James Washington, Harley Dykes, and I know that there's other guys that I'm missing, but those dominant receivers, some of the best in program history, and Des, you could argue, probably shouldn't be on that list because he had to sit out a year. But if he'd have stayed, if he hadn't gotten in trouble, Des would have been on that list. Des was really good. And Dylan Stoner, a slot receiver that's filling in for an injured outside receiver, puts up the 3rd highest receiving yard total in program history, and tied this year touchdown number in the Big 12 with 3. That was the highest touchdown number for a receiver. It was tied, but just insane. So, and then you look at Dominic Richardson, who both of those. I will say both of those performances came against a defense that was decimated. That was a bad defense. But you look at what they did the week before against TCU. Now TCU wasn't decimated like Baylor, and I get that you're missing coaches and you're missing players, but what this team was able to do, and I've had people that are like, why are you calling this a dominant performance? Why are you calling this a huge win? Did you not see the TCU game? This was massive. This is massive. I get that it doesn't get him into a Big 12 title game, right? Okay, I understand that. It doesn't get him into a New Year's Six bowl game. I get that. I understand that. They finished the season with 3 losses. That's it. There are no more games that make you look impressive. I get that there's going to be a bowl game, but most likely going to be against a 3-7 Arkansas team, where it gets you to 8-3 on the season and 7-3 in Big 12 play. That's a far cry from winning a Big 12 title that they probably should have won. But you bounce back from easily one of the worst losses in the last 2 or 3 years, right? You win in Waco for the first time since 2009, and you do so by getting 3 Big 12 weekly performers. Now, when you have a place kicker and a kid that's filling in for punter winning the Special Teams Player of the Week award, there wasn't much going on, right? Because all he did was kick off and punt. But 10 kickoffs, the average starting position was the 25-yard line, meaning every single one was a touchback, or your gunners stopped them before the 25, and then you pin them deep going into halftime to keep the score 28-0. So I can't say enough about that game. And I get that it was a boring game. It seemed like it was the longest game of the season because it was over in the first half. Mm-hmm. You go into the second half. Now, I would be curious to know the reason of not playing Shane Illingworth. Was that we want to keep Spencer out there, we want to keep our foot on the gas? Was it something with Shane? Was he not ready to play because of being out the last 2 weeks for COVID? And that may be I want to know that. Horrible note here. Robert, we've got an article on pokesreport.com. Robert put out a notes article including some injury updates and possible bowl games and stuff like that. We don't know definitively, but we do have a note in there that the medical staff, I believe he'll have an MRI either today or tomorrow. I think it's today. But the medical staff fears that with Trace Ford, it is a torn ACL. We don't know for sure, but the medical staff fears that it's a torn ACL, which is just horrible because you look at what he did as a sophomore, 15 unassisted tackles, 22 overall. He had 4.5 sacks, 4.5 tackles for loss, 4 pass breakups, 5 quarterback hurries, and 2 forced fumbles, including 1 in the Baylor game. At the pace he was going, he probably could have finished that game with at least 3 sacks. It was just insane, but that's horrible right there because it happens in December. You're looking at 8 to 9 months of rehab. Missing spring football, missing summer workouts, missing fall camp. Back, he'll be ready to go in September, hopefully. So that's a big loss. But the good thing is you still have a red shirt available, and with a free year, he comes back technically as a sophomore. So that's you're not losing time per se in terms of eligibility, but you never want to lose a guy like Trace Ford.
Get him on Twitter at ZLancaster91. I'm at the Patty Wheels. Yeah, and we wonder why.
You wonder why those guys opt out.
Yeah, that's exactly why.
We got a few minutes though. I think we're going to get into that in the next segment. But we got a few minutes here. For a little buy or sell.
We want to get into it. We're going to get into it.
We've got some good stuff.
Yeah, let's go ahead and knock some of those out. Buy or sell?
Are you buying?
I'd buy that for $1.
Or are you selling?
You pick up the phone and you sell.
This is Buy or Sell on the Afternoon Sports Drive.
Make money, make money.
Afternoon Sports Drive, Triple Play Sports Radio Network. Keep Zach calm down over there. Going crazy.
Well, we got a break coming up in about 5 or 6 minutes, and and I'm gonna do my damnedest not to call people, and I'm not gonna specifically call people out, but I'm gonna do my hardest not to piss off the fan base, but.
You know who you are, people.
Oh my God! Saturday and the TCU game is a perfect example of why players should opt out.
Oh, that's exactly right.
Okay, I'm sorry.
No, it's true.
By yourself.
Yeah, you're right, and we're going to hit on
get
that
off on
coming
that
up.
tangent.
That's right. We got to get to buy yourself first. All right, I'll start off.
Sure.
So, speaking of Chuba, we're talking about Chuba.
Yeah.
Buy or sell that his season was a disappointment overall.
Yeah. Buy.
As well as did it hurt his draft stock?
Yeah, buy. I don't think it hurt it enough to where he falls to, 5 or 6 or 7. Because I think last year's season still holds quite a bit of merit, and I think that I think when it really boils down to it, I think you're gonna. He was injured most of the year. He played with injuries, and we found that we knew he was dealing with leg injuries. But when you get players coming out and defending, defending Chuba and his actions, not actions, but his season and all that stuff. Chuba, they're saying he could barely walk during the week. He's wearing a walking boot, and he's getting injections, and he's taking so many painkillers on Saturday just to go out there and play. And he puts up, let's say he puts up 75 yards, and you get fans after the game, well, what the hell was that? That's piss poor. That's what you should have left. Blah, 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 blah. Well, he's injured. He's injured, all right? Let's say you work in the office, right? You work on a computer, and you break both your arms, and you have no use of your fingers. And your boss is bitching at you and moaning at you all day. Why the hell aren't you performing? Well, I can't use my fingers, boss. Well, sorry, that's not good enough for me. Come on, Jesus. But it is a disappointment, and it's not because. It's not because, he just didn't go out there and perform. He was injured, and that's the whole season as a whole. Every bit of it, there is some angle and some aspect of disappointment because, and I, broken record. You go back to January and you get Rodarius, Tylan, and Chuba all coming back. You're returning a defense that played lights out towards the end of the year. Almost all of them. You lose one corner, and you replace him with another corner who struggled at times this year, but the expectations, the offensive line looked really good. The expectation of Spencer taking that next leap. This should have been a Big 12 championship team. This should have been when you get down to, the college football playoff show where, all right, who's making the college football playoff? Oklahoma State should have been in that discussion, right? Yeah. And then all of a sudden you lose 3 offensive linemen before the year starts. You don't have a spring football. You don't have a summer football. You lose 2 offensive linemen in the start of the game. Chuba's banged up all year. Tylan gets banged up against TCU. So all of it was disappointing, and so Chuba, performance-wise, and just because of injury, it was a disappointment. Yeah. Does it hurt his draft stock? I think yes, but not enough to really matter, because when he gets healthy and you have a pro day, Chuba is going to light a pro day up. Yeah. He is going to have an absolute monster pro day, and if there is a combine, he is going to absolutely light the combine up. He's incredibly intelligent. He's well-spoken. The interviews he does with the GMs they're going to be lights out. He's smart, so his intelligence test they do, the litmus test. Chuba is. I'm not saying Chuba's going to get himself back into the first or second round, but Chuba's going to make up for this disappointing injury-filled year in the spring. Yeah, I don't think there's a worry about that.
Yeah, I'm obviously gonna buy a disappointing season, and I think that's for himself. Obviously, the fans are disappointed by it because he set the bar so high a year ago.
Yeah, double-edged sword.
And I don't think you were ever going to see any repeat of something that good. Because that would be hard to do anyways. But the fact that, with everything that went on this offseason and into now, it frustrates people. They see his statement that he put out yesterday or whatever it was a couple days ago about going to the NFL. It's like, okay, you read the part about it, I wanted to come back here and I wanted to help with the causes that I care about so much and all this stuff. Well, and people read into that and think, well, what was the real reason that you did come back here? So my issue with Chuba is, and everyone knows I disagreed with the way he went about things in the offseason, and I think he understood that pretty quickly, that he did as well. But other than that, it was I don't think I'm going to necessarily question his effort, but there were times this season where I was like, okay, that he looks like he's somewhat disinterested, or he doesn't look as, and if players heard that, I'd be like, you're crazy. You got to hear what he's been saying, what he's done for us, and I totally get it. But just from viewing it, it seemed at times, okay, he's maybe not as into it as he probably should be. And was it encouraging to see running backs come in like we have this year? Yeah, that's big time, because they had big shoes to fill, and I think they did a good job of that, and the future is bright in that position. So, and as far as his draft stock, when the offseason things happened, the NFL, like, no team would come out and publicly say it, that, oh my gosh, that what he did right there dropped himself on our board a little bit. But it did on some, that's for sure. It did. And then the lack of performance this year, even when he was, quote unquote, somewhat healthy out there, it didn't help things. To put another, rock in the basket here, how about the fact that we keep seeing, as I brought up, all these undrafted running backs just dominating the NFL? It's not like so teams realize, hey, we sometimes don't even have to waste a pick, and we certainly don't have to waste it as high as we thought we did on a running back. So all that goes against Chuba. But I'm like you in the sense that what he's going to show, what he did show last year, is that valuable to an NFL team? Hell yeah, it is. There's going to be a lot of NFL teams that would want to take a shot on a guy like Chuba and at least work him into a system. That's the next thing, is that he checks off a lot of boxes on my list, and if I'm an NFL draft scout, I'm thinking this looks good, this looks good. Is he coachable? That's the biggest question, because you saw what happened with him and Gundy in the offseason. You know that a lot of teams are like, okay, and they've talked to Gundy about it, I'm sure, but it's like, how coachable was he actually? Not just this year, but last year when he got to the program. Was he able to be taught? Or did he have this idea that I've already got it? That's a big deal in the NFL with players. So I think that certainly a disappointment. And it's for a team, it was a disappointment. Like you said, you wanted to be in the college football playoff. You wanted to be in that conversation. You wanted to win a Big 12 title. And out of all chances, out of all years, this was your best chance, man, by far. Did they piss that away? A little bit. Yeah, I think it's fair to say. I know injuries.
Oh, yeah, they're sitting at 7-3.
Yeah, but I know. Injuries suck. I get it. But, man, the play on the field was not great. And there's a lot of games you can point back and say, should have been better, should have been better, should have been better. And, yes, you should have. So, personally, am I disappointed in Chuba? I'm not disappointed in him. I think he did. He worked hard. When he was out there this season, there are plenty of times where I was like, okay, is he really giving it all at this point?
Well, when you have Robert coming out, and Robert, as we all know, Robert is viewed as a Gundy and program mouthpiece. Right, Robert's orange glasses, glass, half full, kind of an orange Kool-Aid drinking kind of a guy. And when you get Robert coming out and questioning where Chuba's mindset is, I think that's a bit of an issue. But I don't know. I mean, I think Chuba, I think he's done enough to still merit a decent draft pick. Like, you go back to last year, and I think he needed to do better than he did this year on the field, to kind of prove that. But when you put up over 2,000 yards, and you're putting up 21 touchdowns, and I think injuries, I think they're going to play a big part in that, and I think it's not going to hurt him as much. I don't think this season's going to hurt him as much. In terms of on the field performance, because he was injured, and I think he's coachable. We hear stories of him being a great teammate, and he's always out there after practice, 15, 20, 30 minutes doing extra drills, and he's very polite, and I agree with you. I think the way he went about calling out Gundy was wrong, but I think what we learned almost immediately thereafter, the fact that him and Gundy sat down and had a massive, had a really long conversation, and then other players joined in, and they were a part of the conversation about helping the program move forward in certain areas and this and that. I think it hurt him at the time being, but I think everything since then, I don't know if there's as many worries about him being a distraction to a program. I don't know. It'll all come to pass. We'll all figure it out. So my first one kind of got thrown off a little bit with Rodarius's announcement. Rodarius Williams announces today, comes out at 2:20 that he's going to the NFL. Congratulations. I love it. Go make your money, rest up, and prepare for the pro day and the combine. My first one was, will we get an NFL, or we get an NFL draft announcement from more OSU players this week, buy or sell? Obviously, buy. Yeah. So now I'm going to change it.
Okay.
Do we get an announcement sometime this week from Tylen? Or because we found out that, and also in that article was Tylen wasn't in Waco. Tylen stayed back here. We saw him on Twitter. But Robert made a note that he is still with the team, meaning that he has not come forward to Gundy or anyone else and said, hey, I'm going to sit out the bowl game. So do we get an announcement from Tylen this week saying, I'm not going to play in the bowl game?
I'll give you my answer real quick because we got to get out of here.
That's correct.
Buy that he does come out this week with it. I figured it'd be earlier than now. I really did. And I don't hold out any hope that we'll see him in an Oklahoma State uniform again. I just don't. You know where I was at this point last week. It was the same thing. And expected after this game that he would, along with, not necessarily with, but at the same time, around with Rodarius and Chuba, he'd be next. And he's going to. It's not a shock to anybody that he's going to announce soon. I'm sure that, onto the NFL. The reason I say do it this week just makes too much sense. You're not going to play in the bowl game, man. I mean, I get it, the Biletnikoff, and even if he doesn't, to me, he's still in the running.
Well, apparently to ESPN, the Alabama receiver is going to win the Biletnikoff.
Well, I mean, would we all be surprised? Devontae Smith, and he's incredible, but look at the team he's on. Come on. Don't tell me he doesn't play a little bit into it. Yeah, so... Yes, I'm going to buy that we do here. I'm expecting any day now. Really, I am. And you may think different or whatever, but I any day for me.
I'm with you. I expected it sooner. I honestly expected them to come out sometime last week before the Baylor game and make that announcement. I appreciate that they didn't. I appreciate that all three of those guys waited. And Tylen may not. I don't know. He might. I could see Tylen not announcing until after the bowl game and just not playing in the bowl game. But I think it happens. So I'll buy it because I'm surprised it didn't happen sooner.
Yeah.
So I'll buy it. Yeah. But it ties into my next buy or sell when we come out of this break.
There you go. Zach's always good with the teasers.
It's fun.
Stay tuned.
And it might be stupid. It might be.
It's what we do on the show.
Well, it might. I may not. I don't know the policy, so I'm going to ask it, and someone's going to be out there saying that, well, that can't happen because of this.
Yeah.
But I think it's good, and I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, we'll get to that and finish up buy or sell after this on the Afternoon Sports Drive.
I don't wanna wait for our life to be over. You have it, but you take it how you left it. This is give and take. Take your side, take me under. I want it, but you show me what I'm missing. In the plane down in Southern California, running in the streets all day. I guess some of us just gotta learn the hard way.
Afternoon Sports Drive, Triple Play Sports Radio Network. Patrick Wheeler, Zach Lancaster, and show today brought to you by Stillwater Milling and Perry, just south of Square 205 Gene Taylor. All toys right now discounted by 20%.
This is the perfect time for cheap toys.
Just in time for Christmas.
Oh, man.
We are, believe it or not, 11 days away from Christmas. That's nuts. Where has it gone, man? Wow.
And I honestly thought at times this year would never end.
We're gonna get to Christmas, yeah. That's it's almost like the finish line. Yeah, I obviously the New Year is too, but I'm with you, man. It's we got to get there, no doubt. I'm with you as well. I didn't think it was. There were times it's like, come on now. All right, we're in buy or sell here on the Afternoon Sports Drive. My second one for you today. Zach, yesterday we saw the Chiefs win again. We saw the Bills win again.
Bought it.
Which means the Steelers have lost twice in a row. Not long ago, they were undefeated, and everybody was, they're going to be the team this year, which we were skeptical of. But the Bills, it was a great win last night. We'll get to that later. But Kansas City, so pretty much an ugly victory, and it's fair to call it that. There were some high moments. There were a lot of low moments. So with that being said, with those two teams, you buy or sell. You have to pick one here. The Chiefs or the Bills.
I have to pick one.
You have to pick one.
It's not just they.
No.
No.
Because I fully believe one of those teams will win the AFC Championship. The question is, which one would you buy to win the AFC?
Okay, because I would buy both, right? If the reading is buy the Chiefs or the Bills to win the AFC. Yes, I do that. I will buy that for sure.
I can see how that would be confusing.
Because I was like, duh. I don't think
you were probably like when I said that.
This is the easiest buy or sell that we've ever.
Dude got
had.
creative.
So I will buy that. I will buy one of those two teams. There's still a chance, I think, that Pittsburgh could figure it out because every team goes through a bit of a slump. I think Kansas City went through a bit of now. They still won their games, but you could argue that Kansas City's going through a little bit of one. The Bills went through one earlier in the year, so I think every team goes through a slump. It's just unfortunate that Pittsburgh's is happening in the last 5 games of the season because it makes it look even worse. If Pittsburgh loses a couple of games early and midway through the year, I don't think it's that big of a deal. Or if they lose to the Bills, and it's not 2 in a row and it wasn't their first 2 losses, then I don't think it's that big of a deal. So I think there's a chance Pittsburgh could come back. And I think that I think it's going to come down to the Chiefs and the Bills to win the AFC. If I had to choose between the two, which I do, I think the Bills are pretty red hot. I think the Bills are clicking at the right time. I think they're playing just about as well as anybody, if not better than anybody in the country across the board. But it's really, and I understand that some people may think that this is the Kansas City Chiefs afternoon sports drive because of you. And the Chiefs are really, really good.
Hey, and I don't even understand.
So I'm not trying to appease you. But I just find it really hard to try to pick against a quarterback that's won an MVP, a quarterback that's won a Super Bowl. I find it hard to pick against probably the most talented offense in the NFL. And their defense is suspect at times, but they do enough to win you ball games to hold off the other team. So I'm going to go with Kansas City to win the AFC just because it's too hard to pick against them. I get the Bills are playing well, but I can't pick against them.
The same people that think this is the Kansas City Chiefs afternoon sports drive are the same people that chirp when Patrick Mahomes throws 3 interceptions, but are quiet when he doesn't. Called a lot of people out
I think you just gave me your answer.
Well, let me say this, though. The Bills, I'm with you. They are a really, really scary team. And I give them a ton of credit because they easily could have folded up after what happened in the Cardinals game. You lose on a Hail Mary, like, that sucks. That's it. That could be the end of your season. You don't play well after that because you just can't get over it.
Yep.
But the Bills did that. And credit the coaching, credit Josh Allen playing out of his mind, credit the offensive line playing out of their minds. And look at what they've done in the division. You got to take advantage when the Patriots are no longer any good, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
And it's a competitive Dolphins team. So you got to take advantage, man. When it's not the Patriots running the show, which is so foreign, you got to do something. So I absolutely buy it's going to be either one or two.
Really?
Chiefs or Bills, yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, I know, right? The Bills, man, I'm telling you. The Chiefs played them earlier in the year and beat them. It was a weird game. It was like I think it was a Tuesday game. It got rescheduled. Weird game. And I would love to see a rematch, but I'd be scared to death as a Chiefs fan because Josh Allen last night, I know the numbers aren't huge, but my gosh, if you watch that game, there's throws.
Are they on opposite sides? Like if they won out, they would meet in the AFC title game?
Yeah, so right now, the Bills would be the 3 seed, I believe.
Could you imagine that matchup?
Yeah.
You make it to the AFC title game and it's the Chiefs and Bills?
Yeah. And that's what I'm saying.
And you just pray to God that you don't have to play in Buffalo?
Right. It's not snowing or whatever.
I mean, it's going to be cold in Kansas City. Yeah. But there's a difference between Buffalo cold and Kansas City cold.
It's going to go through Kansas City, but see, that's the thing. Chiefs, we got to remember. I mean, they won the freaking division yesterday too in Week 14. So with that being said, the Bills are insane. Josh Allen is the future of the NFL. You heard it right here. There's a bunch of young quarterbacks.
What about Pat Mahomes?
Yeah, he's the present right now. He's the guy. Well, it's still the future, I guess. I mean, he's going to be a chief for
he's
what,
only
10
been
more
in the
years?
year for like 4 years.
Feels like a long time, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does.
It's not that long.
Well, with what he's achieved.
Yeah.
My God.
Yeah. Well, and Josh Allen last year was good.
Yeah.
But you could tell there were a couple things he needed to really improve on. And man, he's done it. And the trade for Stephon Diggs in the offseason couldn't have gone any better. The dude is leading the league in receptions. They're so good at moving the sticks on third down and going right to the sticks there, making plays. They've got perfect receivers for this offense. Stephon Diggs and Cole Beasley are awesome. Josh Allen is next level. When you look at the young QBs in the league, he is leading the way. I loved it yesterday. I'll have to show you the video because Juju Smith-Schuster goes out for pregame, and he's dancing on the Bills logo. And, he's just as famous for being an NFL player as he is being on TikTok, like all the young dudes in the NFL are, right? He's dancing on. They show Josh Allen in the tunnel. He gets all his offense together, and he says, hey, F all the dancing. We're going to go out there and F and work and get it done. And it's exactly what happened, man. And he's got that mentality. He's not sucked into everything else. So I love Josh Allen. I love the Bills. I'd root for him, man. I hope they go as far as they can. I think a matchup with Kansas City would be insane. The Chiefs yesterday showed that, yes, Patrick Mahomes is human. We're spoiled, people. I mean, we just are. He throws 3 interceptions. 2 of them, and this is not me being a Chiefs homer, one of them was blatantly his fault. The other 2 were tipped off receivers' hands. So you can pick them apart. You can do whatever you want. The Chiefs' defense got to tighten up, that's for sure. And this was a pesky Dolphins team. We knew that coming in. This isn't your grandma's Dolphins team. This is a good Dolphins team. They got Tua at the offensive side. Hey, they're going to take teams to the end. So it was a fun game for the Chiefs. I'm going to buy the Chiefs win it just because I'm like you. Overall,
it's hard not to.
If it gets to a shootout, which I think it will be with Buffalo, can Buffalo win in a shootout? I don't think you can against Patrick Mahomes at this point. But, man, it would be close. The Bills have taken over. They're easily a top 5 team right now.
Yeah.
Awesome. I can't wait. So, yeah, I'm gonna buy the Chiefs to win the AFC. But the Bills are a real threat, man.
What kind of weird-ass year is it where the Patriots are horrible and the Dolphins and the Bills are really good?
2020, right?
My God.
Only 2020.
Okay, so my second one, like I said, it ties into my first one. This is where some people could say, well, that's a dumbass question because I know the policy and it obviously sounds like you don't. And I don't. I don't know if there is a policy in place or if it's just... the coaching staff saying you've opted out and so you are technically no longer with this program, so it doesn't matter. But we now know that Chuba and Rodarius have announced that they are going to forego the bowl game and they are going to attempt. They're going to start trying to prepare for the NFL draft. We both said that we think that Tylen could announce sometime this week. We certainly expect an announcement at some point. But do those announcements, do those 3 guys, and I guess Tevin as well, any guy that makes that announcement, do we see those guys being at the bowl game, wearing a jersey, supporting their teammates, or do their announcements force the coaching staff to say, you know what, you are no longer with this program, so we're not allowing you to be on the sideline.
Yeah.
Buy or sell them going to a bowl game and supporting.
Yeah, I'll buy it in a sense that I think it will be like what Tevin did. Mm-hmm. So if they go, it's probably going to be on their own. Mm-hmm. Now, I say that because I do believe the rule is if they have an agent, then they're no longer allowed to technically be affiliated.
Yeah, that is correct. And we know that Tevin has an agent.
Yes.
But we don't know about the other guys.
Right. And
I would imagine that they would probably get one, but we don't know for sure. And I could see the coaching staff allowing, because I'll let you go because I'll get into my piece.
No, I'm pretty much with you.
I don't want to interrupt.
No, it's okay because I know that have players talked with agents or at least gotten advice? Yeah, I would say that's probably a good chance.
Just be quiet with that.
Right? Yeah, that's right. Yeah, I'm not saying for sure. It's just me thinking out loud. And after the announcements,
yeah,
I have to think that they're right there with the people they've selected in terms of, okay, now what, right? With these guys or girls or whoever's representing them, because that's your next step. You want to be able to lock that down as quick as possible, and as we know, for professional athletes, finding the right agent is super important the rest of your career, man. Look at some of these ridiculous contracts, especially in the NFL, that end up not panning out for the teams, but they really pan out for the players. So it's a big time to get agents. So I'm going to sell that they're there with the team. The only thing that, and I'm with you, we talked about on the break, because it's a Gundy thing, right? So even if that were the case, does Mike Gundy go, hey, Tylen, Darius, Chuba, you guys have done so much for us. Yeah, just come over here and support the team. I don't know. I could see him doing something in terms of, I'm going to stick by what I do, and I'm not going to change it for these guys, because if I do that, it never ends type of thing. So I'm going to sell that they're there on the sideline with the team at the bowl game.
Yeah, and that's and this is probably one of my both of our more difficult buy or sells, because if let's just say Tylen announces, but these guys, I find it hard to believe that they're not going to go and get agents. But if you're looking at Tylen and Rodarius and Chuba and what they've done for the program, Rodarius is one of the top 3 corners in the country this year. If Rodarius wants to be at the game, and especially Tylen, you look at Tylen. Tylen is the face of the program. Tylen, with what he's done for Oklahoma State, if Tylen goes to the coaching staff and says, I would like to be there to support my teammates, I would find it really hard for them to say, you're no longer a part of this program. Sorry. So I don't know. I mean, oh man, I don't know, man. It's so tough because
and for a player's perspective, if I'm Tylen, or Chuba or whatever, I'm like, man, I want to be there for my guys, and I want to be on the sideline, getting them hyped up and all this. But again, it goes back to it not being the same experience with the bowl game, man.
Right.
You don't get to hang out with your guys and do the parades and do all this stuff.
And
man.
that's the thing, is it's not going to be bowl games this year.
No, it's not.
Like I talking to Robert today, we were having a conversation, and he was like, it's really not going to be a bowl game.
No.
It's virtually going to be just a road game. It's going to be a road game for these two teams because if there are fans allowed, you're looking at a very, very minute amount of fans. There's not going to be the player get-togethers. There's not going to be the events put on by the bowl games. Players aren't going to be allowed to go out shopping, with the various gift cards or whatever they're going to get. They're going to be down there, and it's going to be a couple practices, and they're gonna play a road game. So I don't know. I find it hard to believe they're not going to have an agent, so I'll sell it because I find it hard that they're not going to have someone they're talking to, trying to talk to GMs and scouts and stuff. But if they don't have if they hold out, I could see I'll buy that they're there.
Okay.
Because I with everything we've heard about Chuba this year and him supporting his team and being there, and same with Tylen, and I mean, hell, Tevin showed up and bought a ticket. Tevin was in the stands, down in Waco supporting his guys. So I'm going to buy that they're there. Whether they're on the field or they're in the stands, those guys will be at the bowl game. Yeah. I find it hard for them not to be. So I'll just put it that way. If they're not on the field, they'll be in the stands, and I think they'll be in a jersey.
Get him on Twitter at ZLancaster91. I'm at the Patty Wheels. We're going to have to recycle a couple, believe it or not, of our buy or sells.
Well, let's just move it to 2.
Crazy, right? Yeah.
There's no reason for 3.
We can never fit in them.
I think we've done it like twice.
Yeah.
We've gotten all 6 in.
It's just, we can't help ourselves. That's for sure.
Well, we're giving you 4. Don't complain.
Yeah, that's right. We'll get some more in tomorrow. More Oklahoma State basketballs. It'll be just a day away. By the way, tip-off time has changed.
Moved, and the channel, too.
Yeah, I want to get that out there. It was an original 8 p.m. tip-off, now slated for 6 p.m. on ESPN, big ESPN. So
I'll tell you why.
Why is that?
You only need 2 words.
Okay.
Cade Cunningham. That's the reason he's on ESPN.
Shouldn't every Big 12 game with Oklahoma State be on ESPN? I mean, really?
Well, hell, you look at the football team. virtually every single game was either on ESPN, ESPN2, or Fox.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
ABC. You didn't have any really secondary channels, and I think that'll be the case with basketball.
I think it's an interesting viewpoint because they also have the whole Big 12 ESPN Plus thing. Like, hey, you want to see Kate Cunningham, you're going to pay for our subscription.
You'll have ESPN Plus games like you did in preseason. There will be some Big 12 games because I think it's in a contract. But you're going to see a lot of big channels this year with Kate.
We come back on the afternoon sports drive and tell you what we learned on this wonderful Monday. That's up next. Afternoon Sports Drive, Triple Play Sports Radio Network, rounding it out here on this Monday. Show brought to you by Stillwater Milling and Perry. Check them out, 20% off all toys right now, 50% off all Christmas decor, just south of the square in Perry, 205 Gene Taylor. Go check them out. A lot of good stuff. You still have time to get all the Christmas stuff you need, all the gifts you need before it is too late. It's not too late for us. We're going to round out the show, and we're going to do it with this.
The day is coming to an end. Time to find out if these two got any smarter.
The question is, what did you learn?
Let's find out what the guys learned today on the Afternoon Sports Drive.
Well, I learned something today.
All right, Zach, I know you learned something today.
I did.
I can't wait.
I guess Jose Cuervo, they have a train. It's called the Jose Cuervo Express. And it sounds like that it's been a thing for a while, but they have resumed services last Saturday with they have revealed a new what they call an elevated experience. Tickets start at $114, but it's a tequila train with an all-you-can-drink bar. And this new service, which the train runs between Guadalajara and the community of Tequila, which the Mexican Secretariat of Tourism calls it the Magic Town, is essentially what it is. But this new train car is a luxurious wood-paneled car with 37 passenger spaces. It's capped at 24 due to the pandemic. But floor-to-ceiling windows, 2 lounge areas. Guests in this service receives a new line of custom cocktails, as well as access to a premium bar and all of Jose Cuervo's premium tequilas, which is 1800, Tequila Maestro, Centario, rum, but then they also have rum, vodka, and whiskeys. And it takes you from Guadalajara to Tequila, and you get to go through the distillery, which is Mexico's oldest. They take you through the agave fields. All you can drink liquor. These tickets start at $114, and you get snacks and educational tastings with a field expert.
That's part I like, these educational tastings. That sounds amazing.
Come on. Why would you not want to go to Mexico and get on the tequila train?
Can't think of any reason.
Don't buy your Starbucks coffee for 2 months. Drive to Mexico and take a ride on the tequila train. You start at $114 and it's an open bar? Minus the expensive tequilas, and you want to spend a little bit more and you get all you can drink expensive tequilas?
It's a heck of a deal. That's a heck of a
Screw Disney World.
Yeah, that's right.
Go get the tequila train.
This is that is good. What did you learn material right there?
But be careful, because you don't want to end up in a Mexican prison.
Right.
Because most people end up in American prisons while drinking tequila.
Yes.
I would imagine that it's a bit more of a nightmare trying to get out of a Mexican prison to get back to America than it is to get home from an American prison.
I have to agree. That's probably a disaster. So yeah, just make sure you avoid it. Yeah, that's good stuff, man.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
You're welcome.
So what I learned over the weekend, and we saw it on display in college football, is that occasionally, being an idiot usually comes back to bite you.
Shocker.
Yeah. But occasionally, an athlete, for instance, is so stupid or does something so stupid, it just blows your mind. You're like, I can't physically put reason to this, okay? That was Marco Wilson.
Oh, yes.
Marco Wilson decided, while playing LSU with Florida, it was a close game. LSU looked like they actually belonged on the field, believe it or not. I know Florida's defense has been suspect this year, and man, they really were on Saturday. Florida or LSU, I should say, completely in this game. Florida gets a stop. LSU looking like they're going to have to punt. Tie game at the time. And during the stop, Marco Wilson, defensive back, makes a tackle, tackles a dude around the legs, and his shoe comes off.
Yeah.
Takes the cleat and yeets that cleat.
It's logical, right?
Oh, yeah. About 20 yards. Just yeets it down the field, 20 yards. So automatically flags fly, dude. That's unsportsmanlike. That's 15 yards. Drive continues. Next thing you know, field goal. Ultimately ends up to where Florida is down, has to go on a crazy drive to even attempt a field goal. They attempt, I think it was a 51-yarder and miss.
Yeah.
So bottom line, it all comes down to that was going to be stopped. The game was going to basically be over. Florida would have had the ball and could have scored. No. Not only, which here's the thing, I didn't necessarily think they were going to beat Alabama in the SEC championship by any means, but even of an opportunity there, because even if you do, doesn't matter. Alabama with one loss is still going to get in.
Yeah.
Are you serious, man? Yeah, there was going to at least be a conversation if Florida only had one loss. Now there's not. You just screwed everybody. And the worst part about it is that head coach Dan Mullen, who's been a joke this entire year, I think.
Defends the guy.
He's like, nah, that wasn't meant as a taunt. That was just that was a mistake. Dude, it's okay to call out when your player is an idiot, man.
Yeah.
This is I've never seen this before.
Well, and that's not like jumping off sides in the first quarter.
It's completely preventable. What made Marco Wilson think, you know what? I bet if I throw this cleat down the field at this point, I bet I won't get a flag called on us and we won't give him 15 yards.
It's not like he just. I think it would have been okay if he picked it up and just tossed it.
If he
just tosses it to the side, gets a warning.
Yeah.
But the fact that he launches it, even if he'd have kept it, if he'd have just kept it, it would have been less trouble.
He straight chucked that thing 20 yards.
I will say though, everyone's seen the video.
Yeah.
With how foggy and horrible it was.
Yeah.
The fact that LSU kicker, they were kicking into, not only did they have the scroll, the video scroll, but he was kicking into the video board. You could not, everyone knows where the uprights are, but the fact that he nailed that right down the middle without having to worry about not being able to see it, that was impressive.
That's true. That was impressive. Good. It was a big win for LSU. It basically knocked Florida out of the conversation. It's just that play right there that basically defined it and got him to that point. Dude, you can't do that, man. That's all Marco Wilson will ever be known for.
Yeah.
Ever. Is one stupid play, and there was no rationale to it. Nope. Clearly no thought, and it makes you wonder, why we see guys that are really good football players, and that's great, but how much is going up on the heads of some of these guys? Really. That's one of those guys where I'm like, you personify the dumb jock stereotype
100%.
perfectly, dude,
100%.
because that is stupid. That's what I learned. It was ridiculous. So we're going to do it for us here on the Afternoon Sports Drive. I want to thank Joe Lunardi. That was awesome there in first hour. We'll get that up on Pokes Report. That'll be up on the Triple Play Sports YouTube page. All kinds of good stuff if you missed it there to hear from him. I want to thank Stillwater Milling Agri Center. They brought you the show today. Go check them out just south of the square in Perry. 205 Gene Taylor. That's Zach Lancaster. I'm Patrick Wheeler. We're back here tomorrow on the Afternoon Sports Drive on the Triple Play Sports Radio Network.